Hey, friends! I'm excited you're here. This is an amazing. This is one of those landmark moments where you're doing something new, and the best part is I'm actually doing it with you. And it gets even better. We have our special guest, the amazing Miss Molly Roth. I mean, hey, she has an amazing introduction here. So Molly Roth is a licensed professional counselor in Texas with 6 years of experience, my friends. Exciting in the field of counseling. Her practice is focused on empowering clients to overcome emotional barriers. She's passionate about understanding traumas and the profound effect on the trauma's profound effect on the nervous system. Let me get this correct. Molly is a real life, to me, Molly's a real life Jedi, you guys. I mean, she has some awesome insights. She's enhanced, she has enhance cutting edge certifications and techniques such as AMDR, and that's eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. And she has NET, which is neuro emotional technique, alongside training, which is family systems and also mindfulness. She's actually currently at this moment, she's working towards her nutritional therapy practitioner certification, which will allow her to address clients' concerns from a more holistic and comprehensive lens. I mean, simply, Molly is not only enables her clients to break free from stagnation, but also experience transformation in the process. I mean, to be honest, you guys, I mean, she has all the certifications, but Molly, such an amazing person. If I had to tell you something, there's just people that are just winners, and that's what Molly is. She's a winner. She works hard, but she's been through some tough things. And to see somebody push through and keep the character is truly a gift. And to call her my friend is even better. And I'm excited to be here with you guys. So we're going to be diving. I mean, she's here. You've probably seen her. She's the admin in our Self Love Strong Facebook group with so much knowledge. You know, when you have that friend that you're like, that's my friend. Yeah, that's who Molly is. She's awesome. So today we're going to be focusing on really self love, and we had three great questions. I would love for you to write these down as well and maybe get some answers. And we're going to give you some of our personal insight, but realizing that self love is really going to be defined in different ways between each and every person. But there really comes down to some principles in that as well. And that's what excites me just simply about what we're doing here. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of overview of what the questions are. So get yourself a pen, a piece of paper, or even that dirty napkin that you just hasn't moved. Pick it up, write them down. So it's going to be, what does self-love mean to you is our first question today. So write that down for yourself. And our second question is, what is your big challenge when it comes to self-love? And our third question we'll be asking today and giving some answers and some of our insight too is, with what has helped you find a greater sense of self-love? And I'm super excited you're here. So you don't want to hear me. Let's hear from Molly.
Well, thank you so much, Sam, for that wonderful introduction. I am just kind of stunned. I'm like, wow, hearing that back is amazing. Yeah, I mean, I love the topic of self-love because I think it goes along with what I ask all of my clients in my practice about self-care, and I think where we live at a time where we hear all of these terms like self-love and self-care. And a lot of times we don't really know what they mean, or we know what they mean on a superficial level. So I love that we are going to talk about that today. So to me, self-love is how we the expression of being your authentic self. I think we can express our self-love through our self-care, really how we take care of ourselves. I think it all begins with awareness that we actually have a self, right? That we are separate from the things around us. So I think it starts with understanding, I have a system here, I have a nervous system, and I have to take care of it. A lot of this kind of goes into being the parent to ourselves that maybe we didn't get. We have wonderful parents, but a lot of times they kind of, they miss some things, that are important emotionally or physically. And so we get to be that parent to ourselves that we needed back when we were kids. So it's how do we take care of ourselves as that parent that we didn't have? And I think also it's important to note that a lot of people are chasing a feeling, right? When they think about self-love, they're thinking about a dopamine or an oxytocin high, when really, a lot of times self-love doesn't feel really great. Sometimes it is that tough love. It's overcoming barriers. So I think it's kind of encompasses all of those things, is what self-love means to me. But I'm curious, what do you think?
Oh man, I love that. And that really hit really hard when you were talking about how it really starts at that early age. Because for me, when it really comes down to defining what self-love is to me, it's really funny. This topic of self-love, when it comes to me, is probably the hardest thing I have ever done. It's kind of one of those things that I set this year off to have that intention. I realized in myself that that was that missing link, because I really wasn't loving myself. And when it really came down to that, I was like, what was love to me? What is self love to me? And it's really having that respect for myself. And I realized in multiple ways, I wasn't respecting myself through my actions, what I was saying to myself, and what I was simply doing to myself. Um, so I realized that I need to have a higher sense of respect for myself and really honor myself by honoring my values, honoring myself by the actions I take, and just really simply those choices that I'm making each and every day. But one thing that really made an impact is what you really talked about. As I asked myself at the beginning of this year, is where does love start, right? And you talked about, there's sometimes as children, as parents, they can do only as much as they can. They do their best, right? But I realized love starts there. But I feel like as school teaches you what love is. I mean, I really started to think to myself, like, who teaches you love, right? We get our parents, thank God. Like that's what whether I don't know if your childhood was good or bad, but then maybe you learn love at like I feel like 15 is where like or 13 is where kids are like, I know. And then yeah, are like, like you're teaching them love. But then I think there's that point of where we become adults and who's teaching you what love is as an adult? I started asking myself that question. And is it going to be society, or is it like, you talk about like past traumas or something like that? Like who you love as an adult. And I thought about no one's really teaching you that, right? No one's really asking that question, like, what is love to me? So I started to really dive deep and realize, I look books like, one of my favorite books, love is patient, love is kind. I look at the Bible and that as my basis of love. And I really haven't had that modeled in my life. So I feel like when it comes to what self-love is to you, it's a learning journey. Like for me, it's honestly something that I'm learning. Uh, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm excited to be here, learning
Yeah,
from the best over here.
it's honestly one of the hardest questions that my clients say that I ask them at the end of every session. I ask them how they're going to take care of themselves. What are they going to do for self-care? And like so many of them will give me this blank stare of just like, well, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? I'm here, I'm taking care of myself. And I think like that's an important component too of like, what does this actually translate to in the real world of us taking care of ourselves? So I love a structure. I love putting my thoughts into a structure. It just helps me organize. So there's this idea of like the wheel of wellness. Originally, there was like 7 different areas on this wheel, but it's, if you think of your self-care as like a circle, each piece, the little pizza piece equals a part of, different aspect of your life where you can practice self-care. So we have like the physical world. So like how you physically, your physical body, how you take care of yourself, intellectually, which is like kind of what you were saying, like the things that we do to stimulate our mind, to grow, to learn. There's also emotional, right? Like how are we on setting boundaries? How are we at acknowledging our feelings? There's the social world, which is friendship, community, spiritual, obviously can be religious, but also can just be being in nature, practicing mindfulness and presence. Occupational, kind of it's different than intellectual. Occupational, really thinking about your career, right? The things, your purpose, and how that plays out in your life. Financial, obviously money, but even just like goals and right, how can you practice self-care through the way that you spend your money? And then environmental can be globally our wider environment, our world, or even just your home, right? Your personal space. But I like the structure because you can go through each little, pizza, if you want to call it, of the circle, and kind of see where, like, how you're doing in that area of your life, and how can you take care of yourself? Because I think we're not really on a daily basis even looking at a lot of these things until they're brought to our attention. What do you think about it?
Man, that is awesome. I really love that there's 8 areas because I feel like myself personally, since I am in the fitness industry, it seems to be like 2 of those are the ones I really focus on. Like I'm like physical, and I really am like, my first thing is like physical, self-love. Like I think of just being physical, but then I love how it goes, like into the intellectual and really, the spiritual and occupational and the financial, which are so intertwined. Like, because I know the times when I really feel like I'm stressing financially, it takes away from me physically. And I feel like they're all intertwined. Like I know, like if I feel like if I'm down, like I just know sometimes, like I'm stressing about my finances. I know I need to work out, but man, it's really hard to be motivated when one of those things are down. So what would you say, if any? I mean, I know there's 8, and they feel like they're all really intertwined so deep with each. But is there like a core 4? Like how many can you really hit at one time? I'm asking. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like you said, like each one of these impacts the other one. I think as far as like your top 4 definitely would probably be like unique to each person. For me personally, like physical health, that's always going to be kind of my top 4. Spiritual, my relationship with God, my relationship with my faith, that's always going to be kind of one of the top ones. And then probably social, and then emotional and intellectual would probably kind of share a spot. But I really do think that, like, this is different than values, because I think values, we can hierarchy them, but like with this is like, if you're missing a piece of that circle, if you're missing a piece of that pizza, right? Like, there's going to probably be some kind of symptom that you're having, whether it's like stress or just not feeling fulfilled, or feeling like some aspect of your life is missing. Because I mean, I think we need a little bit of self-care in each of these areas, a little bit of self-love in each of these areas, to feel really holistically well. And I think that that's kind of like what you were saying before about just focusing on like maybe nutrition and exercise. I see so many of my clients are like, I'm eating right and I'm working out, but I still feel really depressed, or I still feel, just really bad, and then it's like, well, how are you doing financially, right? How are you doing spiritually? We can check in these other areas just to make sure that there isn't a component missing. And a lot of times there is, because we're just not thinking about them on a daily basis.
Wow. 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 I mean, that's a master class in itself right there. Holy, I mean, that is awesome. Like, wow. Sorry, I had to just like, my mind is like, I'm glad we're recording this. This is awesome. This is awesome. But yes, I really love. I mean, yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, when I look at my life and I look at that wheel of life, I can almost picture times when I'm down in one area and how it affected the other. Like when I look at that wheel, really, and I'm excited that that's something that we're going to be working on, through this series, which is going to be amazing. So let's move on to our next little question here. What's our next question? Our next question is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to self-love? Now, I mean, just for me personally, when it comes to just some of the challenges that I have personally felt when it comes to self-love, has truly been boundaries. One of my favorite quotes, it says that only people who get upset with you setting boundaries are the ones who've been benefiting from you from having none. And that really, when I heard that quote, it really hit hard to my heart, because I have this thing, I think it's a great thing. They call it people pleasing, but I call it just a heart of service. Like I just genuinely enjoy helping and serving people. And that is a great thing, but it has come to a fault to where I haven't set boundaries and it's ended up hurting me in ways that instead of helping. So even though I'm like, hey, I get passionate about service, I have just a servant's heart. I realized it's the time that I wasn't setting boundaries. It got me in a bad place, and it wasn't a point of joy. It was almost, what would you say? I don't know the word, but not coming from a good place. It wasn't, the result wasn't good. So I realized for me, that's something that I struggle with. And really, when it comes to setting boundaries, let's see what I have here. Okay. And yeah, it's just one of the really was something that I know I need to work on personally. Just setting boundaries with your family, which is hard. When I'm a father of five, with relationships, with friends, especially family, it's really tough when you are busy. But as I realized when I set those boundaries, it come with the peace. It always comes with frustration because it's something that's obviously hard and new for me to do. And since it is working, something I'm working on, but I notice the times when I do set it, I've never regretted it.
Yeah.
I just never regretted setting a boundary. Is that you? What are you something? What are your thoughts on boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, and I think you bring up a really good point of like a lot of times self-love is not going to feel good at first, right? Like when you start setting boundaries with people who you've never said no to, or you've never put those limits, there's going to be probably some pushback immediately, which isn't going to feel good. We don't want to lose those relationships. And we don't want other people to feel uncomfortable or in pain. But I think that is the truest way of loving ourselves, is doing it anyways, right? Showing up even when we don't feel like it, saying no even when everything in our nervous system wants to say yes, because we have an attachment or a codependency there. And I mean, I work with a lot of those people pleasers, where it's like that is how you earned love when you were a kid, was just by not having boundaries, or you never had that shown to you. Because boundaries really put that line between you and someone else, right? This is where I end and you begin. And if that wasn't modeled for you growing up, you're not going to know what that looks like, and that's going to not feel right. It's not going to feel like the right thing. But doing it anyways, I mean, that is the truest form of self-love, right? Is putting your oxygen mask on first before you help someone else. So I love that you brought up boundaries, because I think that is a huge obstacle to people truly taking care of themselves, truly loving themselves. But also, in order to set boundaries, we have to feel worthy enough to set boundaries, right? I have to feel inherently worthy of love in order to really feel good about setting those boundaries. But as we're developing them, a lot of times we have to set them first, and the self-worth comes from that, which can be really hard, right? It's an uncomfortable space.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely, definitely. Yes, yes. That is awesome. That is awesome. So, and it, man, that was, sheesh. She's good, y'all. I told y'all. I try to tell y'all. Okay, okay.
Well,
So
I mean,
another thing.
yeah.
No, go on, go on, go on.
No, I was just gonna say that I had thought of some other obstacles that also kind of get in the way of people practicing self-love, but I can wait until what you were gonna say.
Oh no, you go on. No, no, ma'am, you go. I said something. You go on. Come on. I want to hear this.
We're
No, I
practicing
want to stop
boundaries.
this train. You're well, mama, I'm a gentleman. So ladies first, ladies first. Come on. Let's hear it. I want to hear
Okay.
this.
Well, I think just from my experience working with clients, I can see that there's kind of a lot of tangible things that we can point to that really get in the way of us taking care of ourselves or practicing self-love. I think a big one is time, right? Like if we're looking at that wheel of wellness, taking an hour out of my day to meditate may like not feel possible, or taking an hour in the morning to go work out may feel like a mountain to climb. So I think time and money tend to be kind of the two big ones I see that people can really use as a way to put off taking care of themselves. I think also just the times we live in now, ongoing stress and just ongoing trauma is another thing just within our nervous system where we don't feel like we have capacity to make changes or to move the needle. And then you kind of are in that uncomfortable space again of like, I know I need to do something, but I don't feel like I have the capacity, even if I know it's going to make me feel good. So those tend to be kind of the big ones I see that get in the way of people making those steps to take care of themselves.
Oh yes, yes. I've definitely felt that. And one of the things that really kind of hit me was when it came to, like I was talking about boundaries, it really societal expectations. I feel
Mhm.
like, as an adult, as when it comes to gender, like male and female roles, um, just I feel a lot, especially as a father, you have a lot of societal expectations. And as someone who I feel is, I can guess I can consider myself a dreamer and somebody who has goals and passions. And as an adult, you want to do things, still put your goals first, still have passions as an adult and as a family person. And, society sometimes is like, you're supposed to do this and this is what you're supposed to do. But I found myself not, when I was doing these things, I wasn't being authentic to myself. And when I wasn't showing myself love, looking, but really comparing myself to societal expectations, I wasn't able to show the proper love to everybody else. And that's what I realized when I noticed the times when I wasn't showing myself and really limiting myself by someone else's expectations of what they thought of what I thought. Because, really when it comes to societal expectations, it's what I'm, assuming someone is thinking. I really don't know the fact, but it's just that pressure that I would place upon myself because what would others think or what would somebody else say wasn't allowing me to show up authentically and give the proper love to somebody else that, with me not showing up as myself. So what would you
100%.
say with societal expectations? Have you experienced
I
anything like that?
Absolutely. And I think like what you're touching on is almost like this generational pattern that gets passed down from generation to generation, especially for men, where like men are not given space to have feelings, to even be thinking about some of these, areas on the wellness wheel, right? Like your emotional health. I think we're just starting to enter a time where men are allowed to have emotions and are going to therapy or at least seeking some kind of help for themselves, because I mean men and women, we have the same systems. I mean they're wired a bit differently, but men have emotions, but like what gets passed down is this idea of like men are supposed to be strong, men are supposed to be leaders, men are supposed to be providers, right? And I think now like women are entering these, or women have been entering these roles for a while, but it's like the men are now kind of being given space to do something different, to show themselves love, to practice self-care. And just think how that is going to change the next generation and the next generation, right? Giving them these tools and space to like be full human beings, like you said, be an authentic human being that loves yourself.
Yes, man. Say that from the rooftop. Sheesh. Because that's what one thing, like when you said, when you said that emotional part, I was like, yeah, I mean, you're taught to like throw some dirt on it. Get up,
Exactly.
Timmy. Like, but I mean, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. So do you have anything to say about that one question about what any bigger challenge? Do you have any other challenges when it comes to you know, when it comes to self-love?
Yeah,
Any other
I think
challenges?
for me personally, I think this year, just the amount of like injury and physical impairment that I've had has really challenged my idea of self love, because I think I've leaned very heavily on physical activity. I like to play volleyball, I like to work out. And then not being able to do those things, I realized like, wow, my wellness wheel is very, it's heavy on one side. And there's a lot of areas that I have not put a lot of love into. So I think it's been amazing to see how much different life feels when I'm putting some more balanced energy among the different parts of my wellness wheel, and like devoting more time to my spiritual aspects and devoting more time to my emotional and my social and these other ones that are just equally as important. But I've given so much attention to physical that, I've kind of neglected these other pieces. And I think for a lot of people, it does take something like an injury or an accident to reassess things, to see where really is my energy going, and where could I be putting the energy that would make my life feel a little bit more balanced.
Yes, man. Yeah. Um, that's awesome. That's awesome because and that's why I really like that, Will. Like when you were talking about, like, man, it's so awesome because I realized like there's so many areas. Like I gotta be honest, I gotta work on my social and emotional a lot more. And I realized, and I realized, like you said, like it just if it's unbalanced, it's gonna show up somewhere.
Yeah.
And um, and unfortunately, it's not a comfortable place ever, you know. So, all right, friend, we're going to get into our final question right here. It says, what has helped you find a greater sense of now? For me, when it comes to just finding that greater sense of self love, it's honestly come down to my daily practices. To get to this point, to where I'm at right now, 4 years ago, I would never think I would be on a camera, pursuing semi any close to my passions, doing anything. What really had changed my life for me was simply journaling. Um, it helped me be the writer of my story, and I've heard it so many times, but it finally became real for me when the things that I was writing were literally happening. It was creeping me out. Like, but it took daily journaling. I started to see myself as a person that I could become instead of the person that I was. Because you wake up every day. I was working at a job where I did the same thing every day, ate the same lunch. I'm talking same, same, same. I was so structured, and I was telling myself that it was a good thing to be, I was so, how do you call it? Predictable, right? And I was comfortable, but I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy, and I wasn't showing myself love at that time because I honestly felt a sense of being stuck. And when I started to implement journaling, it started to honestly show me the possibilities of what I could become. Like I realized like I could be this person that I'm writing about each and every day. I could show myself more love. I could become the trainer that I want to be. I could become the speaker that I want to be. I can be anything. But it showed me just possibilities. That's one of my top things that has fundamentally changed my life. What has really hit you, Miss Molly?
Well, first, I want to say I love that you mentioned journaling, and I love that you mentioned writing down the things that you want for your life, because a lot of times we don't know what we're even moving towards or aiming towards, but what we're actually seeking at the end of the day when we're thinking about the future that we want is how we want to feel, right? Because it's like, if I loved, wanting to be a doctor and that just lit me up, I'm really seeking that feeling lit up versus someone else may, think of being a doctor and being like, ugh, that sounds terrible. Right. So, we're seeking how we want to feel. And that's something that we don't have to wait until we get the thing to access through journaling. When you are thinking about what you want for your future and the things that you want, and definitely how you want to feel, you are actually experiencing that felt sense in that moment, which I think is a huge component of change, is just getting a taste of the thing that we want so we can feel it in our system, so that every decision that we're making is coming from a place of feeling, a felt sense of, am I moving towards the thing that I want? And I think that change really happens small, and I a lot of people want to be like, I'm going to do everything, starting January 1st. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to read 20 books and I'm going to eat better. But there's tons of books out there that talk about habits and change, and how, it really takes 21 days to have a habit really stick. And if you're trying to make change everywhere in your life, it's going to be really hard to maintain all these new habits and just even to remember. So I'm
Yes.
a big proponent of take a little bite out of that pie. I would say pick one thing in one area of that wellness wheel that you really want to focus on, you know? So if it's exercise, if it's physical fitness, it's like, I am going to commit to walking, 20 minutes in the morning or 20 minutes at night, every day or 3 times a day, and stick with it. Because what's going to happen, like we were talking about, is that one change is going to impact every single other box, every other single part of that wheel. And then what happens is we get to feel empowered, we get to feel success, we get to feel the dopamine and serotonin and all of these really good feel good chemicals, which then kind of become a positive feedback loop. And then before you know it, we're working out, we're doing weightlifting for an hour, and then we're able to eat a bit cleaner, and our sleep is getting better, and our mood is improving, and we're drinking more water, right? And it becomes this like cascade of just positive feeling. So I mean, and that's kind of, very wide lens kind of view of how we implement some of the stuff. But I think it really starts with just picking one area and just a small change consistently over time.
Man, I love that. I love that. I really love how you were talking about it's just realizing that you pick that one thing and how it can positively impact every area. And I think, like you said, we have so many goals, but I believe that power in one. I really love how you talked about it's the power. It's so powerful. It's just that one thing that you could change. Not, because I know myself, I'm the biggest overwhelmer. I'll be like, I want to climb the mountain. I want to go here and there and there. I said so many things, which is great. But I love really how you talked about taking that little bite. And I think that little bite for most people, I like to say you underestimate what a little bite can do, and you overestimate what that big one's gonna be. I mean, that you underestimate what that little bite can do for yourself. Because I really love how you're talking about that positive. I mean, that what did you call it? The loop? What is that? Positive feedback loop. And I really love how you're talking about it's that action, it's that little action that gets the wheel moving, gets you closer to your goal, but really sets you up for growing in every area. Because I love really how you talked about it's that one area. Because so many times, like for me, I'm like, when I looked at that wheel, I got to be honest. I had like 4 things. I'm like, I got to work on 4 things right now. But I really love how you talked about it could be one. And that could actually help all the other areas. Because me, I'm like, I'm going to have to take a lot of bites. I was like, I'm going to have to take a lot of bites.
Yeah, we want to keep the barrier to entry really low. We want to be able this to be a sustainable change, because what we're really asking for is a lifestyle change, and that doesn't happen overnight. That happens through our daily habits, so it's like we want to make this an easy win. And I think that, like, if you can have a win every single day in just one area, you're building trust in yourself, you're building confidence, you are proving to yourself that you can do something that you set your mind to, and then you start feeling the benefits of it. I mean, even if it was about sleep, it's that I'm going to be consistently go to bed at this time, and get this much amount of sleep. You could actually hit that goal every single night or come close to it. You would already start to see so many wonderful benefits. And then, like I said, it just kind of picks up steam. But it's keeping that barrier to entry very low, so that it doesn't matter if you don't really have time or financial resources. Like, that's for a lot of people. They're like, well, I don't have the money to buy a gym membership. Yeah, but you can walk for 10 minutes in the morning, right? Unless you have a disability, but you can find a way, right? There, it's being willing to make that small change, and take that first step, which for most people is the hardest.
Yes, yes, yes. And I really love how you talked about it being something consistent and small. Because
Mm-hmm.
really key for me when it really came to this making changes or doing something new is I like to remove the pressure off myself. That's one big thing I'm always like you said, it's the small little things that make the biggest changes. And it's the things that we can do small but consistently. And everybody talks about perfection. And for myself, I realized that it's just honestly, like you said, taking that small step, but also removing the fact that perfection is not really something that you can honestly achieve. but you can get as close. You can get the closest you'll get to perfection is by simply taking action, right? Because the yeah, what are you gonna say? The guarantee technically isn't there, but it can change.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say absolutely, and I think too, like that you don't have to go about it alone. Like, there's communities like the one you built here, and there's tons of Facebook communities. There's tons of meetups with people who are trying to implement the same changes in their life, and I think that like community is one of the best ways to just start a habit and to stay consistent because you have accountability, you have people who are sharing in the struggle, and I just think that like the less alone that we can feel in a change, the more likely it's going to stick, that we're going to be held accountable to that change.
Wow, I love that. Can you say that one more time? Oh my gosh. Because I need I can you say that one more time?
Yeah, about well, okay, so the
It
one
was
more
just
time.
the community one. The when we were
Yeah,
together, that one.
yeah. So like when we come together, when you're in a community, you're more likely to be able to make a change in your life, right? Because you have the accountability, you have the support, you have the emotional connection, you have people sharing the struggle, right? And so community is a great way to just
Man.
start change.
Yes, yes, yes. And that I would say honestly it has changed my life is community. I'm someone who I strive to be the like that's me in the corner. Like I'm like by myself. I'm like, I'll be the guy like, hey, I don't trying to be the crowd or in a group, but I've realized like the accountability is there, the community is there, but there's just something I feel like as people, we're not designed to be alone. I feel like it's naturally there's a strength in numbers. You see it in the animal kingdom, like lions, they're in packs, wolves are in packs. The strongest animals are not alone. The king of the jungle is not alone. The lion has a pride. And I realized there's so much power in a group. Like you said, you couldn't have said it any better. You said it's going through the tough times together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the times you go through the tough times are when you want to quit. But I noticed the times when I was with somebody doing it hard, when I had somebody in the trenches with me, was not only the times where I was able to push a little harder, but it was the times where I didn't want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did that? What? Yeah, I mean, sheesh,
I mean,
y'all. This is Molly.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we are biologically wired to connect. I don't think that living in isolation exists as a human species. I think that's why COVID was so hard for majority of people, as we were really disconnected. And it's great that we have mediums like this where we can communicate, through technology. But I mean, like, we need other people. We need to feel other people, to feel their energy, to feel their presence, because we're wired that way. We are wired to be pack animals. We're tribal. And I think that is so important, as we're thinking about self love, is like finding your tribe, finding the people who encourage you to love yourself through the way that they love themselves. And it's this kind of trickle effect, and I think that, like you said, we're greater in numbers, and there's power in numbers.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. OMG. I hope you guys took a pen, paper. Luckily, this is recorded because you can watch this over and over and over. I mean, this was, wow. I'm gonna have to watch this over. I know I'm like, man, I'm taking notes like in my brain. I'm like, oh, you hear what she said? Let's go. Man, uh, you guys, I'm letting my brain process. I'm sorry. I'm just fumbling over my words because there was so much value there. So many, I like to call them nuggets, like so many golden nuggets. I hope you collect all of them, but I hope more so that you'll take some time, like we did here, and answer these questions for yourself. Now, what do you think about that, Molly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just taking the time to think about yourself as a system that needs to be taken care of. A lot of people watching this are probably parents or caregivers of some sort. You can lose track of yourself in those roles. So just taking the time to think about yourself as a system that needs to be taken care of, and like, where could I just do a little bit more? Where on that wellness wheel have I been neglecting myself? And can I take just a small step in a positive direction in that area?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay, friends, man. I'm super thankful for you guys. I'm super thankful for Molly for joining me. This is like, wow. When you know something's gonna be good and it just is even better than you could have. That's what this has been. I just can't thank you more. But Molly, where can people connect with you at?
Yeah, you can. I
'Cause-
have Instagram. You can check me out at Molly Roth Counseling. You can also check out my website if you might be interested and you live in Texas in therapy services. It's mollyrothcounseling.com. But also, please feel free to reach out in either way if you have any questions or are looking for resources.
Woo! Oh man, you guys, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. But the first of many. That's the best part. It's just gonna get better and better and better. I'm super thankful for each and every one of you guys being not only a part of this community, but just for the opportunity to give this to you. I hope that I hope you take these questions, get your own answers. I would love to hear those. Maybe even in the comment section. Maybe you can write down some of your answers. I would love to hear some of your challenges when it comes to self-love. I'd love to see some of the ways that you cultivate self-love for yourself. But with that being said, friends, I hope you realize that you matter. Your making self-love a priority will be the greatest gift you give not only to yourself, but to every single person around you. I mean, I really love how we talked about each thing adds up. And it's the little things that lead to the greatest results. So when you're trying to make self-love a priority, realize it's the little things that are going to make a big impact. I'm super thankful for you guys. I'm super thankful for Molly being here, man. Can you just give her a high five? I mean, I want to be like, okay. All right. I'm super thankful for you guys. Hey, y'all have an amazing rest of the day. Take care. Love yourself. But the best part is when you love yourself, will be the way you love everybody else.